Tibia is one of the oldest MMORPGs ever made. It came out in the year 1997, and compared to the more mainstream MMOs that came out later, Tibia was a bit different in some ways. It was an absolutely brutal experience for newcomers. There were no quest markers and no proper tutorials to help you get to grips with the game. You had to figure things out on your own, and if you died, then you'd be set back quite a bit. You not only lost hours and hours worth of EXP, but you could also lose your hard-earned items too. And dying was pretty easy, because there were plenty of trolls running around, who wanted nothing more than to make the lives of newbies miserable. But if you were able to get past all the ugliness, you would get the chance to explore a rather intriguing world. There was plenty of amazing lore for you to sink your teeth into. Not only that, but there were strange mysteries everywhere that kept players coming back as they tried to solve them together. How does one get access to this strange sword, which is surrounded by fire on an inaccessible island? A nearby sign says, "Only the humble may touch the sword of fury." But what does it mean to be humble in this world? And what about that strange tower within which weird monsters are locked away? Are we meant to free them? What about the djinn? What is it hiding? Tibia was full of weird anomalies like that. But there is one in particular that I want to tell you about today. While the game didn't stop you from exploring most places, it did try to ensure that certain quests were only available to players that had achieved a certain minimum level. It did so by hiding them behind doors that could only be passed through by players of the appropriate level. Well, that seems reasonable, and not all that interesting by itself. But there was one door that was a bit different. A door that no player had ever opened before. At the time when this door was implemented, the most elite, hardcore players in the game were somewhere around level 160 to 200. And let me tell you that it was not easy to get to those levels. No matter how hard you tried to grind for EXP, increasing your level was a very slow, arduous process. It could take an absurd amount of grinding just to get a single level up. And that is assuming you don't suffer any setbacks along the way, which in itself was unlikely. Think of it this way, even going from level 200 to 201 took a lot of work. You would be able to, literally, feel life passing you by as you sat there, clicking on your mouse while the numbers went up slowly. So what level did you need to be to open this door? Well, you had to be level 999. When players first found out about it, they thought it was a joke. That level was simply incomprehensible to them. There was no way that anyone would ever get to that level. At least that's what most people thought. This door was implemented into the game around the year 2005, and it remained unopened for a whole year. Then 2 years went by, and then 3. Time continued to pass without anything changing. The only thing that players could do was theorize about what could be behind the door. Some thought it would lead to some incredible, ultimate final quest, while others thought that you would get access to a game-breaking item, or maybe a legendary boss fight, or maybe the answers to all the big questions about the world of Tibia are waiting to be found behind that door. The Tibia forums were rife with discussion, as players let their imaginations run wild. And I mean, that's perfectly understandable. It essentially was the final challenge of the game, as far as players could tell. There must be something epic hiding behind it, right? There has to be. Well, I suppose not everyone thought that way. There were some people who didn't buy into all the hype. They believed that there was nothing behind that door, nothing of value at the very least. That it was just an inside joke for the developers, or that it was put there to drive mystery and intrigue. The developers absolutely did not expect that door to be opened, so why would they spend time working on something huge that no one was ever expected to see? I suppose that logic did make sense as well. But there was no way to actually tell if that was the case, right? That's what everyone thought, until the year 2009 came around. On a test server for the summer update of that year, something strange happened. A glitch was discovered which allowed the players to get obscene amounts of EXP far beyond their wildest dreams. It allowed players to get hundreds of levels in a very short period of time. Of course, it didn't really mean anything in the long run, as it was just a test server. That's why the developers run these things in the first place, to find glitches like this. So players knew that they wouldn't be able to keep their ill-gotten levels for long. But while most players were just messing around, there was one player who went by the name Mastro Daro, who had a different idea. After getting to a level beyond 1000, he realized that while it was a test server, everything within it functioned as intended, right? So they decided to go for it, to try and open Tibia's final door. The portal behind it, where would it go to? Tibia's ultimate mystery was about to be solved. In an unintended way, sure, but solved nonetheless. And Mastro Daro did it. They stepped through that door and walked onto the portal and nothing. Nothing happened. The portal didn't do anything at all. Yeah, so apparently the portal was not active. And unless the developers had intentionally turned it off for the test server, it meant there literally wasn't anything behind that door. The disappointment was immeasurable and everyone's day was ruined. But some players did still cling on to hope. They said that doing it on a test server didn't prove anything, that the portal would only activate when a legitimate level 999 player walked through that door. Others, however, were far more skeptical of that idea. It seemed obvious that the developers hadn't put anything there yet. In any case, the EXP glitch was fixed, the update was implemented, and the door continued to remain locked. Over time, the developers did try to rekindle the interest in the 999 door. They did surveys, asking the community what they thought was behind the door. Maybe they were fishing for ideas. In any case, time passed as it did before, and people gradually began to forget about the door altogether. There were fancy new things to mess around with in the game, new quests, new objectives and mysteries for people to talk about. And so, as the years went by, the mystery of Tibia's final door faded away into the background. But while most players of this game were content with doing a bit of questing and just having a good time, there were a few who were far more dedicated to the grind. And among them, there was one who seemed to be on a warpath. Someone who kept going through the levels like they were possessed. This player went by the name Karsak. He was a very private individual and didn't really interact with the community as such. But what he did do was grind like no one had grinded before. Mostly all by himself too. It was proper I have no friends and I must grind behavior. And as he continued to grind, more and more people began to take notice. On the 5th of November 2013, Karsak became the first player to reach level 700. But he wasn't done. About 1 year later, on the 8th of November 2014, Karsak got to level 800. Again, the first to ever do so. And as he kept grinding and grinding, the entire player base began to cheer him on. He became a cult-like figure in the community, and many began to think that he was the chosen one, the one who would lead them through that door. As the day began to get closer and closer, the entire community was rooting for Karsak. This one player had brought everyone, even the weirdos and the trolls, together, and they all cheered him on. And finally, at long last, on the 1st of August 2016, approximately 11 long years after the door was first implemented, Karsak became the first player to legitimately reach level 999. The crowd went wild from the comforts of their home and clicked their mice harder than they had ever clicked before, I assume. While Karsak wasn't a streamer, it was possible to see what he was doing through a service that was running at the time called Tibia Cast. As soon as he hit that level, the next step seemed obvious. All he had to do was make his way to the door and show everyone where the portal behind it went to. And people were insanely excited. It was a moment that was over a decade in the making after all. Karsak was their champion, Karsak was their savior, and then Karsak didn't open the door. He just kept grinding. People thought he was joking at first, but he kept on grinding and then he just went offline. His fans, the community, everyone was left flabbergasted. What the diddly was that about? Why didn't he open the door? Why? Well, remember, Karsak was a loner. He never really paid much attention to the community, and it seemed like that wasn't gonna change now. Some people thought that maybe he'd stream it or something, but that never happened either. He just kept on grinding like nothing ever happened. And if he did take a look behind the door on his own, he was staying tight-lipped about it. Apparently, someone close to Karsak told everyone that he only intended to tell his closest friends about what was behind the door. Although some individuals who probably felt jilted by this whole affair wondered if he even had any close friends. The community felt abandoned and lost. Their shepherd, who was supposed to guide them through the dark, had gone on without them, leaving them behind in the darkness. And so, they began to look for a new shepherd. They checked to see who was the second strongest player in the game, and it turned out that there was a player who wasn't too far behind, and this one was a streamer too. This player went by the name Devonica. At the moment, he wasn't at the needed level yet, but he wasn't all that far away either, and he was grinding as hard as he could. Devonica probably felt bolstered by the fact that Karsak chose to not do the reveal. That gave him the opportunity to make Tibia history, to be the first individual to reveal to the masses what was hiding behind that door. While Karsak had crushed their dreams, the people had found new hope with Devonica. And so he kept on that grind. Day after day, week after week, Devonica kept leveling up as fast as he could. And about 8 months after the whole Karsak fiasco, around mid-April 2017, Devonica became the second player in the history of Tibia to get to level 999. The people rejoiced once again. They had waited so long, but it was finally time. Time for their new shepherd to unlock the door and lead them to the promised land. Over 10,000 people were watching the live stream. Their minds, bodies, and souls were ready. They cheered from their bedrooms like they had never cheered before, as Devonica decided to not open the door. Wait, what? Oh no. It happened again. And this time, it was worse. You see, unlike Karsak, Devonica was very upfront about why he didn't open the door. He had a very good reason. Before opening that door, Devonica wanted to get paid. That's right, he had decided to cash in on the whole thing. He set up a donation fund and said that he would open the door once the goal was met. While most people were super pissed, many also felt like it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to donate a few bucks, if that's what it took. So that's what people did. They smashed open their piggy banks and gave whatever they could. Eventually, the funding goal was met. And then, nothing happened. Well, you see, Devonica wasn't done milking the crowd yet. It is kinda unclear exactly how things proceeded from here on out. Those who were around at the time say that the donation's goal kept changing. And to make matters worse, apparently Devonica was a bit of a jerk. If he received a small donation on stream, he would, allegedly, mock the individual who made the donation. That's not very nice. That's just very evil. And the people had become disheartened. While their first savior just went AFK and left them on red, their second savior turned out to be a weirdo con man. It seems like this door just brought out the worst in people. And while they were disappointed in Karsak, they were absolutely disgusted with Devonica. Eventually, after receiving a lot of hate, even Devonica realized that he couldn't keep stringing people along forever. His last donation goal, which was for a vacation apparently, never got anywhere near completion. And so, in late June 2017, he decided to livestream the opening of the door. For real this time. Those who were watching live at the time say that they were bombarded with an absolutely ridiculous amount of ads during the stream. Keep in mind that the ad frequency could be determined by the streamer, so it seems like Devonica wanted to milk his audience one last time. But at the very least, he did do what he said he would do. About 12 years after the door first appeared in the world of Tibia, the masses finally got to see what was hiding behind it, as Devonica finally opened the door. Using the teleporter on the other side, took the player to a never-before-seen island. This island was known as the secret place within the game's files. The player is congratulated for their incredible achievement, and there is a tile which, if stepped on, would generate a trophy for the player with their name on it. The most interesting thing about the whole place is that there are some NPCs standing in a line in front of a shop. All of these NPCs are at a very high level. It seems that they are in line to choose their real reward. The problem is, the NPC at the front of the line hasn't chosen their reward yet, so the line is stuck for the moment. Elsewhere, there is a different NPC who the player can trade with, but they don't seem to have anything special to trade. And that's it. I mean, you can look around the island, and there are a few nifty things here. You could also go for a swim and just splash around in the water, but there isn't anything else to do here. Some of you might be thinking, that can't be it. After all this time, it took over a decade for someone to get here. The developers had years to come up with an awesome prize, and this is what they came up with? Well, it does seem kinda disappointing, doesn't it? But what if I told you that there might be something more to this place? Many people believe that there must be a secret quest on this island that must be completed in order to get the real reward. Why are the NPCs standing in a line like this? Why put them there at all, if they served no purpose whatsoever? And that other NPC, what's the point of it? Unless everyone is missing something important. There exist many theories on what the quest could potentially be. Some say that you have to find a way to move those NPCs, maybe by helping the one in front make the decision on what they should pick as their reward. Maybe we have to help the NPCs here relax for a moment, maybe by giving them an item or something. The only problem is that no one has figured out what to do here, and it's been a while now, about 9 years in fact. Could there be a mysterious final quest on this island, still waiting to be found? Or is it perhaps that the answer is a bit simpler than that? The vast majority of Tibia fans have accepted that there is nothing more here. It could be possible that that's why Karsak never revealed to everyone what was actually behind the door. Maybe he became so disappointed by the reality of it that he just decided to let everyone else dream a bit longer. But that pessimism hasn't stopped the theory crafters from crafting new theories. It hasn't stopped the dreamers from dreaming. They still believe that there might be something more on this island. What do you believe? Do you think that there's a secret on this island that has remained hidden for all these years? Or do you think that what we can see is all there is? How do you feel about Karsak and Devonica? Do you agree with the things they did? Do let me know everything in the comments. Well, Tibia is still around. Who knows, someday someone might actually find a way to move those dang NPCs. Until then, maybe we should all just chill, relax and hang out at the beach together. Appreciate the small things, you know? Life is very short, after all.